Howdy all. Well, this is it. This is my experience of the UTA 100. Let's get right on into it. Well, this is it. This is the morning of the UTA. It is a little bit earlier than I'd want to, but I honestly just can't get back to sleep. It's nearly 4 o'clock, but I've got everything all set up here in Cam Madrunner. You can't see much, I don't think, but yeah, no. Just got all my gear in there. Yeah. So I went up to Katoomba the day before to do my race check and all that. And because I'd left the accommodation a little bit, organising that a little bit too late, I decided to sleep in the car. About a K away from Scenic World where the race would be starting. So in terms of how I felt in the morning, I wasn't fresh, let's just say, because when you have to keep in a little car like I did, you don't tend to get the best sleep. So no, that wasn't the best way to wake up. I actually woke up probably an hour or two before I intended to wake up, so I was just too excited to get back to sleep, to be honest. Like, it was just like I couldn't believe today was the actual day. 16 weeks of preparation for this race, and we're finally here. Right, we're on our way now to Scenic World. Can't believe this is actually happening. Been training for so long for this, it feels like. Now it's come down to this. About in 2 hours time, we'll be on our way through the mountains. I remember walking over to the Scenic World, and I remember hearing all the commotion going on at Scenic World because there was still some of the 100 milers still coming through to finish the race. In fact, I think by the time I got there, the top 20 had just finished. So yeah, you could still see all the runners there going through. They'd gone through the whole night and in the early morning, so that was pretty spectacular to see before my own race, in fact. The feelings with 15 to 10 minutes to go before the race, I remember like I was speaking to quite a few of the officials who were talking about the conditions of the course today, and they said because of the pre-rain that had occurred the day before and even the week leading up to it, that the course was a bit muddy, and that was something to factor in terms of pace and time and all that. So like, don't expect PBs and all that for those who are in the elites. So thankfully I'm not in that category, so I didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, it's just like at this point, probably 15 to 10 minutes in, you like to the race, you're up before the race, you're in the pens, you're waiting to shuffle up to the start line slowly, because we had the 50k runners also starting at the same time with us, so we had them to factor in as well. Yeah, no, I think the phrase that I was going for at that time was excited, scared, and nervous. Because when I was excited for the race, obviously, but I was nervous as well for what was to come. Like, I'd done narrow neck so many times but I didn't really know much about the rest of the course. Like, roughly, like, I'd never been past narrow neck, so that was a bit of an unknown. So I was a bit nervous and in a way kind of scared as well, because you kind of like, when you haven't done that distance straight, like, you kind of have like kind of a naive perspective of the event. You're like, oh yeah, 100 Ks, most of the time probably walking, sometimes running and all that, but you can't, and you know you're going to be in pain at points during the race. Like, it's like you're pretty disillusioned if you don't think you're going to go through any kind of pain during the race itself. But yeah, that's probably why I was feeling all those emotions of excited, nervous, and scared. I remember the race started, like, we all were slowly like going through this funnel in order to like get us out cleanly without any hassle. And so as soon as we started, I remember like it's a weird feeling when you start a race this big, or in any race
that is so big, like where you kind of like are just taking out of your mind just how far you've got to go. Like you're starting pretty much at the dawn of the day, so, and you're probably going to finish when it's going to be dark. So yeah, like I kind of disillusioned my mind to that fact and was just focusing on like the next, like throughout the whole race my strategy was like just set my watch into ultra mode, so then like I could then count down how many Ks there was to each aid station. So then I was like, okay, from the start of the race to Medlow Gap, 16.6 Ks. Then we'd get there, switch off, then do the one from Medlow Gap to Foggy Knob, which was 7.8. So then it was like, I wasn't seeing like the overall distance on my watch. I was in fact just seeing like the distance from point A to point B, then point B to point C, to point C to point D, and so on and so forth. When I got onto Narrowneck, I was just kind of like, well, this is familiar. I was literally on the Narrowneck course just a week leading out to the race, so I was like Narrowneck. I was always like knew a lot about relatively, but when you got other runners alongside you, it's a bit of a different story. But I actually, not even 6Ks in, I actually fell, and like it was just a silly fall. Like I just fell on like from a little rock and just tripped. And I had two runners alongside me, and they checked up on me to see if I was alright, and I was like, yep, all good. Got up. So it's kind of that moment where you do something silly in front of people, like a fall, for instance, and you just want to get up and get going because you're like, yep, no, let's get on with it. Let's get on with it.
Update. Already a first fall. Thankfully there was other runners around me, help me out, get up. Yeah, just a bit of a fall. Hopefully that is not the first of many.
I remember just looking down for the rest of that for a bit of Narrowneck and just seeing there was a bit of blood on both knees and had a bit on my hands as well, mostly on my right hand because that's where I landed down there. But yeah, like I just tried to like disillusion myself again from that and just focus on the rest of the race and just like, because it can be so easy to be fearful all of a sudden, like, oh no, I've tripped here, like I know this part of the course so well, so sure enough I'm going to trip other places, right, aren't I? But like it was even because I even had a trip in one of my long runs leading up to the race, and I had a quick thought of flashback to that, but then like just tried to look on the bright side of it. Like I was fine. I was around other runners who were still going to support me to get me back up again, and we just head on, keep on going through Narrowneck. Going through the terrace ladders once Narrowneck finished is when I realized just how hard this race was going to be, because Narrowneck is like, I'm familiar with that, it was a fire trail, but then we dive into the terrace ladders, which is narrow and you have to be very careful, or at least in my case I had to be very careful of not tripping again, which I actually did do again, but thankfully this time it was more controlled. So like I fell into, like once I realized I was going to fall, I fell into some ferns, and two guys went by as well, so they saw me, but that's okay. So I didn't hurt myself at all this time, but I just got back up, and then the officials, when they were talking earlier about the muddy conditions, that's when I really started to see just how muddy and wet it was, because we were still in the fog, we were still in the clouds, and so like you got the mist as well, and so you got that factoring in. It was cold, as you expect, and like it was narrow and muddy, and so you had to be so careful with sliding. Like it was like going down a ski in a ski resort, going down the slopes. It was like so like tricky just to get down the terrace ladders.
10k's in, feeling pretty good despite the fall. Bit of blood, not too bad still. See you in the next one. First aid station done. First aid station done at Memo Gap. It was very slippery after narrow neck, unbelievably difficult. So muddy and slippery I fell again. So that's fall number, actually twice actually. No, once. Yeah, fall number 2. Tick that off now.
I think from Medlow Gap to the 6-foot track was when the mental struggles were really starting to kick in. I remember the exact moment actually when the mental battle was really hitting, which was probably at around the 24-25k mark, and we were around the Iron Pot Ridge section, and there was moments where you're going downhill then back up hills very quickly like that. And I remember at the very bottom of one of these hills, I remember looking back up the hill, and I can't repeat what I said, but let's just say it rhymes with duck this. And that was the moment that the mental battle really hit, because at this point we'd done already 1,000 meters of elevation at least, and I was like, well, there's still like 3,500 more meters of climbing to go in this whole race, and I'm feeling the pain already. So that's when I really knew how tough this race was going to be. Like, again, like, you know this race is going to be tough, but like that's when it really, like, the reality kind of set in at that point.
We have just gone to the third checkpoint at 6-foot track. Yeah, it's bloody hard. What do you expect? One thing about my wife is that she absolutely would love to be out here, and I'll tell you why. A whole bunch of cows. She absolutely loves her cows. Lauren, you would love this.
The distance from the 6-foot track aid station to the aquatic center aid station was the longest distance between aid stations, about 18.6 kilometers. And that was definitely a tricky section, because it was mentally as well as physically, because I remember 2k's out from the 6-foot track, someone right in front of me, I remember going up this hill, and there was someone who looked like they were just chilling, like they were just like they're looking out of the views. I thought that's what they were doing. Turns out he had actually just injured his Achilles, to the point that he was going to walk back to the 6-foot track and retire, which, like, it's like when you see someone retiring right in front of you, you're just like, oh goodness, like, you don't know where they're at in their running journey. You don't know if they're like near new or they're experienced, or like is this something that's going to happen to me potentially? Like, you just have to, like, it's so hard to block that out of your mind, especially when you're like getting later on into the race.
Yeehaw, 50k's in. That means we're halfway through. Yeah.
Going up to the aquatic center, 18.6k's is the longest route as a part of the course, is what I said before, but like with the final probably 2 kilometers, you've then got these massive amount of elevation of stairs and climbs, and yeah, that cooks your knees and legs pretty badly. Like, it was absolutely brutal. Like, there's things I remember saying in the race, and one of those things was going up those stairs and thinking, whoever designed this course, I'm gonna kill them. No, but that, like, you just, like, you almost have to push yourself mentally beyond where you've been before, as well as physically, because obviously you're going to be in physical pain, but you're also in mental pain as well, even halfway through the race, because at this point, going up the hill, we had actually reached past 50k's. So and it still felt like, obviously we have 50 more Ks to go, but like it still felt like there was still so much to do, like there was, and you're already in so much pain at that point, again, physically as well as mentally. So yeah, no, that was very tough to get to the aquatic center.
We just climbed up the very bloody big stairs to get up to nearly 2 Ks away to the next checkpoint at the aquatic center. Let's go! We are back in Katoomba! Yoo-hoo! So, we're about a K away from the next aid station at the aquatic center. Oh man! Feels like so long since I've seen one.
The point around the aquatic center was probably when I started to realize that people were making a lot of comments about my bib. So my bib number had Madrunner on it, naturally. And a lot of people were making comments about that and cheering on, saying, yeah, go Madrunner, go, and all that. Or they'd say, like, oh, you definitely are mad for doing something like this. And yeah, no, that was quite fun. Like, if I had a dime for every time someone made a comment about the Madrunner bib, I'd be very well off. And that was going on from probably, because there was more people like that were going past from the aquatic center onwards. Those comments were happening very often, which was just fantastic. Really lifted my spirits in those moments when people were like even leaving the aquatic center. Like there was someone like saying, yeah, go Madrunner, you got this. And they were just fantastic. From going from the aquatic center to then the Fairmont Resort and then the Queen Victoria Hospital, it was very challenging from an elevation perspective, not because like there was a lot of hills and all that, but it was actually the stairs that were really affecting me greatly. Like it was like the Iron Pot section where it was going like this, like that constantly, but instead of like hills, it was stairs, and you're just going straight up and then straight back down and straight up and then straight back down again. And that actually was when like my Achilles was starting to hurt. And remembering from before when I witnessed a guy retire with an Achilles issue, I remember when I started to feel this pain in my left Achilles, I was like, no, please not now, please not now. This was 60 Ks in, and I just was like, what? Like, and I was like, this better not be like bad. And sure enough, thankfully it stayed, the pain level stayed the same, so I was very thankful for that. But like, that being said, like on top of the pain that I was already dealing with my thighs and calves, and of course my mentality and all that, I was then also dealing with my Achilles as another issue as well. So that wasn't the most ideal, no.
We've just finished the last aid station. Now it's time to hit the trails to Fairmont Resort. Woo! Come on! Had a bit of a funny moment. Had to go to the bathroom, I was absolutely desperate. Did my pee. Not even 2 minutes later, some of the runners from the UTA100 were coming along, so just got in the nick of time.
Probably the highlight of the race actually was coming up, believe it or not, because it was after Wentworth Falls. Like literally as like we crossed the Wentworth Falls itself, I remember going up the hill towards Chester Trail, and as I had my head down, I then heard something along the lines of, yeah, go May, go Chris, or something like that. And I immediately looked up, and my good mate James, who has been helping me out with my running and my strength and conditioning, he happened to be there. He was like at the Chester Trail.
Get it, boy. Almost 80 Ks. Almost. Let's go.
He actually parked his car at one of the dead-end roads in Wentworth Falls, and then just ran down a K down down the Chester Trail just to see me, and he said the chances of him happening to see me were very slim because of just where I was coming out from. So he literally got to me as I was coming up towards the Chester Trail, and that was honestly like such a special moment, because like that was around the 80k, just before the 80k mark, before just 2k's away from the Queen Victoria Hospital, and that really lifted my spirits up, because to see one of the guys who has been helping me and supporting me in my journey, in my running journey, and has been very supportive and also believed in me that I could do this as well, like it was, yeah, just so special.
Unbelievable developments. My good mate who's been helping me with my running, James Klein, happened to be on the course and he cheered me on. Oh man, that was just fantastic. And he's got races of his own tomorrow, so he's an absolute legend. You heard that, mate? You heard that, James? You are an absolute legend.
So on top of seeing my mate James like with 2Ks before the Queen Victoria Hospital, which was the second final aid station, I then actually met my wife at the Queen Victoria Hospital as well, and that was the first time I'd seen her since the start of the race, when she wished me good luck. And that was, again, in the space of 2K, seeing my good mate and then seeing my wife was just like fantastic. And I told her that I'd seen James, and she was like, "That's insane, no way." But yeah, that was, honestly, this was the point where I was like, kind of like the spirits were being lifted for me. Like I was like, yes, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna go through all this pain that I'm going through, and I'm gonna endure it for just 20 more Ks. That's all I've got, just 20 more Ks, and then we're off. But then as I left the Queen Victoria Hospital, one of the officials told me, because it was getting dark, I didn't even factor it in. She said at 5:30 you got to put your high vis on, and then you've got your lamp, got your torch on, and I'm like, okay, all good. So I kind of took that on, and then probably about 200 and 300 meters down the road, I kind of was like, I probably need to put this on now, so then don't forget about it when it comes to 5:30. So I just went for a bit of a walk, got my backpack off, and then got my high vis off out of the bag, got my flashlight off out of the bag too, and then just put it on and kept on going. The experience with the Kadumba Pass is an interesting one, because or the Kadumba Trails, because you're going downhill a lot, and like I was talking a bit earlier about how much going uphill was such a problem, was such a pain, but going downhill for probably 2 or 3 Ks, 4 Ks even, when it's slowly getting dark, was like such a challenge. Like my thighs were hurting just as much as if I was going uphill, and also you're trying to balance like how fast you're going, because you don't want to trip. And I was also thinking again about tripping earlier on in the race. I'm like, well, I tripped in the daytime, so what's the chance of me tripping in the nighttime? It's probably going to go up a little bit. But yeah, nah. So then, like, factoring all that in, like, it was just very challenging, to say the least, in the final 20 Ks. Not to say the whole race wasn't challenging.
Just left the Queen Victoria Hospital, and my wife happened to be there. To be fair, I didn't know that she was going to be there, but oh man, so good to see both my good mate and my wife in literally the space of half an hour, to give me some motivation to get through these last 20 Ks or so. Let's go. Come on. Oh, speaking of which, I can see the 80k sign as we speak. There it is. 80 Ks done. 20 to go. Yoo-hoo!
Another challenge that I was facing with the Kadumba Pass was actually when it was getting dark. It was like to the point that it was like pitch dark, black now, and I was going, every time I went for my refreshments, like I had my 2 bottles like here and then going like this, is that your light is like pointing right wherever you're looking. So all of a sudden you can't see the course ahead of you. So when you're looking down, the only thing you're seeing on the ground is like not even a meter in front of you. So then you like pretty much have to then get up look back up as clearly as you can, so then you can actually see where you're going. And I remember at one point I even like I was doing this and then like I was veering slightly to the left of the course and I was like, oh crap, get back onto the course.
This is my view as we head into a 15Ks to go. So close, so close. Come on.
I knew there was one final aid station, which was called the emergency aid station. It was in the valley. It was 8.8 k's away from the finish line, and like that was such a relief to see it, because then it was like, well, from here on in, it's now from my next stop is the finish line itself. So I was really stoked with that. The only problem is that I actually checked the board at the aid station to see like how far you had to go, and it said 8.8 kilometers, 882 meters of elevation still to go. And I was like, crap. Like there's still quite a bit to go, and pretty much as soon as you come out of the aid station, you're going up a hill already. So you're pretty much, at this point, you're buggered pretty much. So you're just walking up every hill at this point, and then any kind of like, I remember like looking in front of me and seeing other runners, and I was seeing what they were doing, and I was thinking like, if I see them start running, then I'm going to start run, and if they start to walk, then I'm going to walk, because at this point position really doesn't matter anymore. Like you're trying to it's now just about trying to finish now. It doesn't really, and nothing else really matters except for just finishing, and finishing good and well and healthy.
Oh my goodness, we are so close. We've just exited the final aid station. So we've got 8.8 k's to go. So close. But 860 meters of elevation. Well, good luck.
Well, then there came another issue, is that when it's actually dark, you don't actually see what the clouds are like. And as it turned out, the rain was starting to set in with 4 or 5 k's to go. And I remember seeing like the little bits of drops at first with 4 k's to go, and I was thinking like, that's fine, I can deal with that. But then it started to get more heavier, and I may have also said piss off to the rain as well, but yeah, that was that was probably the most challenging point, which is when I realized just how heavy this rain was going to be. Yeah, just getting through it, and then we then also had to deal with the further steps as well, and then you just walk. Then when you get to the further steps, you're like just over a k to go, and you're also dealing with this pouring rain, and then you having to climb 951 steps as well, and you're just like, I can't get any wetter, so I've just got to deal with this now. This is, yeah, it was terrible, but that's what you have to deal with now. It's like you're so close to the finish, just get on with it. No complaining, just get on with it. When I was getting up to the boardwalk, and I remember like still being a little bit disillusioned with the fact that I was so close to finishing the race. In fact, like because of also the pelting down of rain was also kind of factoring into that as well. Like it was only until like even after like you see me like coming up to the final segment of the race, and you see my wife recording me as I'm going past her. Like even at that point, like I was kind of like not factoring in quite yet that I actually was about to finish the race. But it was once I made that turn and I was looking straight at the finish line, that was when I realized that I'm like, wait, I've been running all day and now I'm looking straight at the finish line. Like, this is crazy. And so when like that realization happened, I just raised up my hands in relief and celebration and just roared. And then I decided to pat my my leg, like I was tapping my leg, because actually what I didn't say earlier is I actually had, throughout the whole race, I had a little tribute on my leg. It was a little thing for my niece who was born only 2 weeks before the race, and I decided to, with the permission of my sister, to do a little tribute for the race. And it said, like, it's a little photo of my niece and a little thing called "Welcome to this beautiful world." And that was for me, tapping on her was like saying like we did this together. And so yeah, I tapped on the photo, and then as I crossed the line, I then tapped the ground. I knelt down and tapped on the ground. It's just like my way of saying welcome to this beautiful world, Lucy. And yeah, that was incredible. That was special for me. I actually finished the race in 14 hours and 20 minutes, and I'm actually really stoked with that. I ended up 151st, I think, out of overall, which again is really stoking good. But actually I remember when you finish in under 14 hours, you get a silver buckle, and then from 14 hours to 20 hours, I think it's a bronze buckle, and then from then on it's just a normal 100k medal. And so I remember being given the silver buckle, and I was so confused. I was like, why am I getting the silver buckle? Like, I didn't finish it in under 14 hours. But then, because I was a bit nervous about my Achilles from earlier, and with just being hyper cold, that I was sent to the medical center, and they had took my shirt and pants off and had warm towels on me. And through then I looked on social media, and I found out that the 100 milers, the cutoff time had been extended to an hour, and the silver buckles were also extended to an hour. So if you finished in 15 hours, then you still got a silver buckle, which I was like, that's why I got the silver buckle. I think I didn't quite realize just how significant it was to finish the race, to finish the 100Ks. And initially, because I was still trying to process like just finishing and just like just recovering and all that. And it was only the next day really that I started to see the significance, when I started when friends were reacting to what I'd achieved. And my dad even called me and he said, I don't think you realize just how massive this is. Doing a 100k race is not all the things that people do. So it's quite a mammoth achievement. So yeah, like I kind of started to realize just how big it was to achieve what I did. Well, that's it, guys. That's my recap of the UTA100. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. In the meantime, take care, everyone, and God bless. Bye.